Hi everyone, I am Hayley, a solutions consultant at Remote. And in my role, I spend most of my time inside what I like to call the engine rooms of companies. So I get to understand a lot more about the systems, the processes, and the messy bits really behind the hiring and managing people globally. But there is one pattern that I see again and again, no matter the company size or industry. And that is that things are often more complicated than they should be. In fact, the average team today are using about 3.8 different tools just to manage people operations. And by 3.8, I mean the number of systems and handoffs required to complete a single people outcome. That includes hiring, paying, moving, promoting, and offboarding. And while that number might not sound huge, it is when you realize that these tools don't actually talk to each other. So if you've ever had to answer, how many people do we actually have working for us? But you need 3 sources to reconcile it, this talk is for you. So today, what we will be doing is walking you through what happens when we move beyond that 3.8. I'll cover 3 things: the invisible work tax, the confidence gap where risk hides, and also what consolidation looks like when it's done to unlock speed, not just tidiness. And I'll leave you with one practical way to spot where consolidation will create the biggest impact without turning it into a massive IT project. So let's start off with what I call the invisible work tax, because this is the stuff that nobody plans for. And the worst part is that it doesn't show up as a single line item. It might show up as slower hiring, slower onboarding, delayed changes, and constant checking work. It's the hours that you would spend in moving data between different systems, checking spreadsheets, reconciling payroll across different contracts, and also chasing approvals across different tools. So for example, a simple change might look like a location transfer for one of your employees. But this would mean HRIS updates, contract addendums, payroll changes, benefit changes, local compliance checks, and maybe 3 different systems to confirm that it actually happened. This isn't strategic work, but it quietly consumes massive amounts of time. And we're seeing that play out in the data. So about 1/3 of leaders say that disconnected tools are their biggest challenge at the moment. But honestly, I don't think that stat even captures the full picture, because a lot of this work has just become normal and accepted. But the real cost, it's not just lost time, it's lost momentum. So if your HR team is stuck stitching systems together, they can't then focus on the things that actually move your business forward. And the invisible tax isn't just admin. It creates the perfect condition for mistakes. Because as we know, every handoff is a chance for context to disappear, and once context disappears, risk can show up. So this next slide here is one of my favorites, because it's a little bit uncomfortable. 98% of leaders say that they feel confident navigating international employment. And that's brilliant. We love to hear it. But 74% have still run into compliance issues. And these aren't minor slip-ups. They cost an average of about £30,000 per incident. So what's going on? It's not just that people don't know what they're doing. It's that the system they're working in isn't designed to support them. And when something goes wrong, it's not small. We are talking tens of thousands per incident. So we know that risk lives in the handoffs, where one system ends and another begins, and where context gets lost. This is when approvals happen outside the system of record. So these gap failures can be something as simple as wrong notice periods or misaligned payroll cutoff dates. We know that consolidation reduces the number of places where these gaps can exist. And that's why it's a risk strategy as much as an efficiency strategy. And this is where I will always challenge teams, because confidence isn't just a control, infrastructure is. So if your systems rely on people remembering rules across 10 plus jurisdictions, that's massive risk. Human memory is not a compliance strategy. At the same time, we're also seeing a completely different shift happening. Teams are getting smaller, but expectations aren't. Most HR teams that we talk to are operating incredibly lean, often under 10 people, even in global organizations. But high-performance organizations aren't just looking for more headcount. They're actually looking for force multipliers. And the way in which they're keeping up is through automation, AI, and smarter systems. Around 75% of leaders expect AI to take on the majority of admin work very soon. But here's the key point. AI does not fix fragmentation. If anything, it actually amplifies it. So if your process is broken, AI is just going to let you break it faster. If your data is scattered across multiple systems, your automation is ever going just to be partial. So you can use AI to draft onboarding emails, but you can't automate onboarding end to end. If the truth lives in a spreadsheet, the approvals live in an email, and the payroll lives somewhere else. And unfortunately, this is a pretty common issue that we hear. So if you try to automate a workflow and you've hit the wall of that data is over here and this data lives over there, you have already felt this pain. So before we talk about AI as a solution, we have to fix the foundation. And this is where we think about things a little bit differently at Remote. So we don't see ourselves as just another tool in the stack, because we know that adding another tool doesn't actually solve the problem that we've just described. Instead, we think about it as building a global operating system for work. So this is one place where employment, payroll, compliance, and contractor management can all live together. Not because consolidation is trendy, but because it is the only way to actually get visibility and control at a global level. We know that when everything sits in one system, decisions and execution share the same truth. Suddenly, your leadership can see what's happening in real time across multiple countries, different teams, and also cost centers. This will then mean cleaner data, faster cycle times, and a better employee experience because the process is consistent. And this is when HR starts to become a strategic function again. Strategic influence comes from being able to answer quickly and confidently. What's happening in our workforce? What's the risk? And what should we do next? So when reporting and reality match, HR gets a seat at the table and they keep it. So let me make this with a real quick example. We worked with a UK-based cybersecurity startup, Hayley. They were growing really fast, and like a lot of startups, they wanted to hire the best people wherever they might have been. But they hit the usual barriers: setting up entities, navigating compliance, and also trying to manage it all across disconnected systems. The interesting thing is that none of these problems are actually unique. In scaling environments, delay isn't neutral. Every week you can't hire is a product milestone or a revenue target that has to slip. And unfortunately, this is what almost every scaling company faces today. So instead of building infrastructure country by country, they used remote as an employer of record. Before this, growth for them meant legal projects, scattered processes, and constant exception handling. After, with remote, they had one repeatable approach to hiring across borders. This means that they could hire globally, quickly, and compliantly without having to set up entities. So the key message here is that they didn't buy just a tool. They got an operating model that let them keep their standards while moving fast. They didn't lose speed, because we know that in high growth environments, speed is everything. So that's the real takeaway here. The right infrastructure doesn't just reduce risk, it protects momentum. And when you protect momentum, you protect the business outcomes HR is being measured on: growth, retention, and execution. And all of this becomes even more important when you look at where talent expectations are going. Quick question, you don't have to put up your hands, but how many of you have had a great hire that you couldn't make work because the setup was too hard? Today, over about 80% of employees expect some level of location flexibility. This isn't just an operational challenge anymore. It's a talent strategy question. So if your systems can't support global hiring or mobility, you're actually going to start losing people to companies that can. And with the world that we live in today, mobility isn't a perk anymore. It's increasingly becoming a part of retention and competitiveness. And we all know that mobility increases complexity. So, consolidation is how you absorb that complexity without slowing down or increasing risk for yourself. Consolidation isn't just about efficiency or cost, it's about being able to say yes to the best talent wherever they are. It's how you turn, "We'd love to hire you, but," into, "Yes, we can make that work." So, if there's one thing I will leave you with today, it's that your goal shouldn't be to manage more tools better. It's to remove the need for more tools in the first place. If you're not too sure where to start and you want a simple first step, the best advice that I can give is for you to map one workflow end to end, from offer letter all the way to day one of employment. And you should count the number of handoffs throughout that process. Wherever you find the handoffs piling up, that's your consolidation roadmap. So moving beyond that 3.8 is really about reclaiming time, visibility, and control, so your HR teams can really focus on what actually impacts the business. And if you're curious about what that looks like in practice, you can come over and find us at DG20. So we're just over there to my right, your left. And we've made it really easy to spot with our lovely jelly bean waterfall. You can also scan the QR code on the screen to download our full 2025 Global Workforce Report, and you can also see the benchmarks for your regions as well. So we would love to continue the conversation and talk about how we can help you more beyond the 3.8 and back to the work that actually drives your business forward. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the HR Tech event.